Greetings and welcome to the Dracovin Empire. Are you ready to dive through the mists once more? Heading to Ravenloft. I hope you are. We're going to be learning about another Darklord. Well, 2? 1? Hard to say. We'll discuss it. But if you are ready, grab my hand. You will need a guide through the mists. I, Captains Van Riese, will be that guide. Do remember to give a little bit of a tip here, though, as I lead you through the mists into Ravenloft once more. Liking, subscribing, ringing the bell over on the YouTube side. Come now, the mists await, as does Ravenloft. Today, we're learning about 2, the Van Rieses, both captains in their own right, both different. Interestingly enough, there is some things to discuss here, but we'll leave that towards the end. But perhaps we should start with talking about the 2 of them, Pieter and Pietra, talking about them separately. Well, if I would look at either of them and need some form of information, some form of book about either of them, where would I look? Well, if you're going to look into Pieter, from the Ravenloft, from the original box set, the Domains and Denizens, and the Domains of Dread, also providing more information about his domain, the Sea of Sorrows. Similarly speaking, if we were going to look into Pietra, there is a bit of an excerpt about her in the Van Riese's Guide to Ravenloft. A couple of paragraphs. Really would like more on that still. Let's talk about Pieter, the first of our 2 Captains Van Riese. Pieter is a ghost. Both of them are really ghosts. But Pieter seals upon the Sea of Sorrows on his spectral ship, the Relentless. They look like they did in life, are now translucent wraiths. Pieter is a tall, broad-shouldered man with a strong jaw, close-cropped beard of ivory gray, deep-set eyes that smolder like coal. He wears dark, high-collared bridge coat and battered sealskin cap. The Relentless is a seaworthy, square-rigged brigantine that always appears under full sail, regardless of the wind. She has no crew save her captain, who paces the quarterdeck like a caged animal. Van Riese, Pieter, is capable of willing the Relentless into a corporeal state. When she is solid, she cannot be distinguished from an ordinary vessel. But where does Pieter come from? Well, he sailed the seas back in his home for his entire life. He stowed away on his first voyage and worked from cabin boy to seaman to bowsman. After many years before the mast, he had enough money to master his own ship. He dreamed of finding a northern passage from the seas of his home to exotic, treasure-laden islands to the east. So he searched the aquatic waters, supporting his expedition with whaling and sealing. From time to time, he was defeated by the icy seas or treacherous fogs. It became an obsession, an undying. The wealth and fame he would gain from finding the passage meant nothing to him. It was a personal battle against these northern seas. He drove his crew mercilessly, believing that their weakness prevented him from reaching his goal. His final voyage. Pieter struggled for more than 2 months to round ice-bound northern islands. Relentless was battered savagely by the howling gales, mountainous seas. The crew begged for the captain to turn back, but Van Riese, Pieter, would not be swayed. He executed the crew spokesman and continued to wage war against the sea. At the height of the gale, the Relentless Faust was finally defeated. The foremast was lost, and she began taking on water. Pieter's rage was awful. The moment of his defeat, he swore an oath, bartering his life and those of his crew for the power to force the passage. And his oath was heard by the dark forces of Ravenloft. The gale abated, the ship righted herself, and Van Riese was found sailing in the fog-shrouded waters as though that he thought he sought for so long. The crew was gone. The Relentless was a spectral apparition on the seas of Ravenloft. So now he wanders the Sea of Sorrow, driven to find the passage he was denied in life. Mists confound him at every turn. He crosses and recrosses the sea, seeking some escape from the curse. Mere sight of Relentless is considered a dire omen for other seafarers in the Sea of Sorrows. The captain, Pieter, believes that it was his crew that failed him, and a new crew would finally enable him to escape. He searches for courageous and skillful mariners, luring aboard his ship with promises of fair ports and great riches. Those that listen vanish when the Relentless resumes its ghostly spate, and those that refuse invoke his inhuman wrath. That's the Relentless, at least in 2nd edition. And that's Pieter Van Riese's story. Now, that's not the only Van Riese we can talk about before the end of the day. We can talk about Pietra. Now, this is an interesting one because Pietra also sails aboard the Relentless and is a Van Riese, but is very different than Pietra. Pietra was a murderous pirate, had an unsavory reputation through other pirates, attaching her captives to ropes and dragging them through the waters until they drowned, basically keel hauling. She never removed the detritus from her victims, even though some returned to life as zombies in the bottom of her ships. That's pleasant. The Relentless was ultimately sunk by rival captains, but death couldn't keep Pietra. She awoke in the Sea of Sorrows, water in her lungs, sea creatures making a home in her flesh. The crew stirred, with her now fish-eating corpses, and her voice emerged from their mouths when she tried to speak with them. So the Relentless sails the domain that can overlap with any body of water in any of the other domains. Some domains border the Sea of Sorrows, while others have their own names for these mysterious waters. Those who venture into the Nemesis by boat might find themselves amid the endless debris and sargo-choked expanse of eerie beasts, shifting sands, shifting islands, that include a bunch of following locations which are mentioned in the Endless God. Which brings us back to talking about the Sea of Sorrows and the two of those, and the interesting position that it's kind of in. The Sea of Sorrows is an interesting place, too, because as we see, it still does technically exist and connect with amounts of other domains. The Sea of Sorrows bordered the western mainland of the core when it existed. It was formed in 360 BC and gained a Darklord in 470 when Pieter took control. And this was the wake of the Grand Conjunction. Now, since a lot of the domains of dread are broken apart, it's interesting to see that the Sea of Sorrows still does exist in a bunch of those places. But any water can be the Sea of Sorrows, in a way. These oceans, these domains of water, are connected to the Sea of Sorrows, as they seemingly have always been. The Sea of Sorrows has grown in power in a lot of ways, and those that find themselves trapped in it certainly find some of the places in it, and lured into the own lists. So it's a place that borders other domains. As soon as even if there's water in your domain, it's still part of your domain as a Darklord, but it's also part of another's domain. It's overlapping domains in a strange, interesting way that make it very unique. And this is where something that I was discussing with Twitch chat a little bit before here, which is an interesting thought. This is an interesting change in things. Pieter to Pietra. I don't necessarily mind some of the changes between the two of these. And why don't we go over here about that to finish up today. This is very interesting. Because certainly, Pieter's story is simple, but it's not very exciting. I'm not going to lie. Explorer, obsession, driven to find a passage, and then wandering the seas, trying to recruit a crew. It's pretty boring. Pietra has a much more interesting story as a pirate captain that, was notoriously evil and driven to the seas by her rivals who were like, no, you're too evil for even us, we're going to get rid of you, unite together to get rid of you. And then rising as this maybe ghost, maybe undead of some kind. I don't really know what Pietra's supposed to be. If she's supposed to also be a ghost or not, or something else. It's kind of hard to say. I think it's the thing that, with the changes in lore, I would have liked to have seen a lot more on Sea of Sorrows rather than 2 paragraphs and some other things. And again, this is theoretically the same character. I don't mind that we are doing things like, changing parts of the backstory, changing it to it's a woman rather than a male. But here's something that I'm going to say. I think it would have been much better to be a female pirate. It's her own thing. And not just a change in what was before. I like the idea of maybe the 2nd edition being reworked into what the 5th edition is a lot more. And rather than having this another Van Riese, which really doesn't feel like it would be connected to the same. It's got the same name of the ship, same kind of blight, a lot of things the same. A different ghost pirate that maybe not as connected to the previous one, but has taken their place. I think that would have been a lot cooler. and it would have been like not linked Pietra to an old, honestly speaking, kind of lame character, Pieter. I'm sorry, Pieter Van Riese. You just don't have a great story in comparison to many of the Darklords. You just became obsessed with something and got your crew killed, and that made you a Darklord of the Seas. He's kind of not as cool. Pietra's much cooler. I like her a lot better. But I also would like more than 2 paragraphs of lore about her now. And that's where kind of like I feel like some of the weaknesses of the changes between lore. I don't know. Up to you how you want to deal with that. If you just want to ignore the old lore, I think that's fine too. It doesn't do a lot to do that, as the Sea of Sorrows under Pieter didn't have a lot. It was a location, it was connected to the rest of the core, and a lot of the other realms in Ravenloft, like it is now, but even so now, there is no united land anymore. There's no, like, borders the same way anymore. The borders have shifted and changed and become a lot more malleable. The domains have broken apart in a lot of ways, have shattered, and are still connected, but yet not. It's the mysterious ways of Ravenloft in a lot of ways that make it much more interesting and cool now, especially the Sea of Sorrows. I like the Sea of Sorrows and where it is this kind of connecting ground between realms, but you have to face the seas of a dread pirate in order to possibly travel between realms that are connected to it. It's a lot more flavor. It's this juxtaposition of a couple steps forward and a couple steps back for the lore in 5e when it comes to Ravenloft. They cop some cool ideas, but also they do things weird sometimes. Again, probably just could have disconnected from the character and made an entirely new one. And made it so much better. But anyway, Pietra's cooler. I hope you enjoyed today. This was an interesting one because both of them are basically... They're different characters, but they have like the exact same name and backstory. Where the previous Darklords, as I've talked about them in my video series so far, even when they have very different lore, feel like the same characters. I think that's one of the important things is changing, updating the lore and the history isn't necessarily something I'm against, especially because sometimes the old history kind of sucks. But a lot of the characters feel like the same characters, even if they've evolved and changed. And sometimes there are connections and things that I've talked about when it comes to Ravenloft and the Darklords, which I feel like are interesting evolutions. In this case, kind of weak, you know? And I would have liked a lot more. It's, you know... kind of one on the Ravenloft book we're not going to get. Talks about more of these domains. The domains are cool, and when they've had the chance to actually develop some of these, I don't necessarily mind it because they go in interesting directions. Not always. It's the juxtaposition of 5e. Which you can do. Anyway, if you're trying to check out more of my stuff, remember to check out my schedule. That's up on my social medias. It's my Discord, my Blue Sky, my Twitter/X. I put it up my community page over on my YouTube. All those are great places. Those are also places to kind of check out what's going on with the updates, schedules, and stuff like that. But for the schedule, at least, it tells me when I'm live over on Twitch, either doing gaming or tabletop-related content. It tells you when I upload everything onto YouTube. I do like to put out my scheduled YouTube uploads, which is usually more exact with the two of these things. Save for those video problems or stuff like that I have to make corrections. Anyway, remember to, if you're over on the YouTube side, like, subscribe, ring the bell. And let me know what you think about all this. Again, I think Pietra is a much more interesting character, but in general. But I would have liked her develop more. And I also, again, it's that entire thing of, can't she be her own character? She is inexorably linked to an old version of a character, which is very different. And I don't want to say she's like a gender-changed character of Pietra, because she's not. Pietra's a different character. But you almost can kind of compare that, because it's going from Pieter Van Riese to Pietra Van Riese, and from the Relentless to the Relentless. You know, you don't have that kind of thing mimicking in history for saying they're related. That's just kind of weird to say, you know. Maybe you could make a story of that, oh, they're related, she's a descendant, and she named her ship after her mad ancestor, but that's a very heavy stretch. it's not an impossible stretch, but I feel like we're stretching things a lot. Give her own. Make her ship be like the Relentless 2 or something like that, that she named it after her ancestor. Then maybe she could be connected to it or something. There's ways you can make it that just take a couple more steps to make it more unique and more of its own thing, which I think is great because it's a much cooler idea. Anyway, hope you had enjoyed my little rant there of hoping a character had more respect. A character they created, basically a new character in 5th edition. I wanted more respect. It's a cooler idea. Anyway, until the next time, I bid all of you a deep and wonderful farewell.